So I'll record to the cloud if I manage.
Yeah, you're recording now.
I'm recording now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Are we all set, Gunnar?
We're all set, and it's great to have you here on this going for a refuge retreat here in Oslo. In
November. Oslo.
Oslo. Yes, that's it. And it's delightful to have you as our new president. Speaking of friendship.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Gunnar, and delightful to be here with everybody, including a sugar baby lying in Eva's bed. How that happens, I don't know. But I've still got to understand the Oslo Sangha and how it works. Right. Okay. So, yeah, I'm really, really pleased that I'm going to be speaking today on the theme of passing on the flame through spiritual friendship. And of course, I'm reminded straight away, I'll be speaking for about 40 minutes. I'll set the timer now. And of course, I think we're all reminded, as soon as we think of spiritual friendship, of the conversation between Ananda and the Buddha, where the Buddha kind of rebukes Ananda, saying that the spiritual friendship is the whole of the spiritual life. And when I first heard this, I couldn't understand it, because I'm very much a wisdom type. I'm attracted by wisdom. I'm not attracted, I wasn't attracted by what I thought was pretty mundane, actually. When I first started, I thought friendship was mundane. I was more interested in the dhyanas and wisdom aspect of Buddhism. But actually, I think it's true. Spiritual friendship is the whole of spiritual life. And I don't think I would have stuck with Buddhism without spiritual friendship. That's why I think it's true. Because Buddhism challenged the sources of samsara that I so wanted to take refuge in. And I think I'd have rejected Buddhism without friendship because it challenged me too much. Essentially, I wanted to create a bubble in samsara that really worked. And that included a beautiful partner, included a beautiful house in a beautiful part of the UK. It included a great job and so on. It included living by the sea, swimming in the sea every day. It included blue skies and sun. And I was deeply wedded to trying to create this bubble in samsara. I really, really, really wanted it on a very, very deep heart level. But of course, it was it's built on delusion, because it was a kind of utopia in which there's no stress, no arguments, and so on. So without spiritual friendship, I would have probably chased that utopia. And I'd have been a very, very hollow man indeed. In fact, I'd have probably tried to commit suicide, as I did when I was 14, because I felt life was just hollow and pointless. Anyway, back to the interaction of Ananda and the Buddha. So, because friendship and the communication that occurs in friendship can bring out the best in people. It gives everything we need as a human being, including connection and intimacy, challenge when we fall away, knowledge. We can communicate experience and vision and perspective through friendship. We can communicate inspiration. We can communicate exemplification. We can communicate clarity and perspective. And of course, as social beings, we need communication. We need to listen to people, and we need to be able to talk to people. So friendship gives us, I think, most of what we need as a human being. And I understand that now. I understand that now. And of course, if you've left home, as Ananda had, then all your human needs, your spiritual needs, need to be met by the community in which you're in, particularly friendship, I think. So all of what I've mentioned, connection, intimacy, and so on, can happen without Buddhism. You don't need to be a Buddhist to practice friendship. But in Buddhism, in Triratna, friendship is key to spiritual progress, and the Dharma is passed on through friendship. And we see this very early on in the Buddha's life. Who did the Buddha go to when he thought, who can I teach for what I've discovered? He went to his friends. He went to his 5 ascetic friends to try and communicate the Dharma, and he did communicate the Dharma. So I think that's a really good early example of the Dharma being passed on through friendship. So the flame of the Dharma is passed on from one person to another. And we have a lineage of passing on the flame of the Dharma through friendship that stretches right back to the Buddha. And the Oslo Sangha is part of that lineage. You are part of a lineage stretching right back to the Buddha, because you are passing on the Dharma between you. We're in the lineage of the Buddha. And I think it's really important to understand that you are part of this amazing lineage that goes right back to the Buddha. All of you are. And what a wonderful thing to be part of such a universal, a lineage of such universal significance. And that lineage, this lineage of friendship in which the Dharma has been passed, we can think of Bhante and Dada Rinpoche, the incredible friendship which those two shared. We can think of the friendship which Bhante had with other his teachers. We can think of our own friendships. Where would we be without our friendship in terms of our spiritual lives? So the key term when considering friendship in Buddhism is, as we know, Kalyana Mitrata. And Mitrata simply means friendship. And Kalyana, it's a really rich word. It can mean lovely. It can mean auspicious. It can mean morally good. It can mean helpful. It can mean spiritual. It can mean beautiful. So every time we use the word Kalyana Mitrata, just think of the connotations of the word Kalyana. Lovely, auspicious, morally good, helpful, spiritual, beautiful. Because that's what we're engaging in. So before I go on to speak about spiritual friendship in my own life, I just wanted to say a few words about the theme of the retreat, passing on the flame. We are not passing on a thing. We are passing on energy. We're passing on energy when we're passing on the Dharma. We're passing on the energy that burns as a result of spiritual life. The positive energy that burns as a result of spiritual life. We're also passing on joy, gratitude, equanimity, mindfulness, love, compassion, and so on. And all these are not things, they're energies. So I see passing on the flame of the Dharma as passing on particular types of energy. Because that's what people are attracted to. People are attracted to energy. So in passing on the flame of the Dharma, we must practice ourselves so that we release energies which we can pass on to other people and attract other people. I think you can relate to this in your own experience. What attracted you to the Oslo Sangha? Okay, I'm just going to say a few words about my history now. So when I first encountered Buddhism in my early 20s, I did have a kind of a deep spirituality. At the age of 14, I got severely depressed because I just didn't see the point of life. It just seemed so boring and dull. You know, the prospects of me were I'd carry on my dad's business, delivering coal. I would get married, I'd probably have kids, I'd have a house with curtains and carpets, nice curtains, nice carpets, and then I'd get old and I'd die. And I thought, what is the point of that? So I got severely depressed. And in fact, I tried to commit suicide, but I didn't, because just before a suicide attempt, I had a deep experience of dhyana. And also I had an experience of seeing pratitya sampada, seeing that actually all things are impermanent and insubstantial. And this was where this is where I could live my life in a meaningful way, which wouldn't lead me towards suicide. So I aborted, stopped the attempted suicide and decided to try and make sense of what I'd seen. I also saw that living a self-orientated life separated me from life, and I also saw this separation was very, very painful, and I saw that all dukkha, if you like, arises from me being separated, or me from the world and other people, me thinking that I'm a separate human being from everybody else and from the universe. So eventually I went along to a class at the Manchester Buddhist Centre when I was doing my PhD. But I wasn't, although I responded very, very strongly to what I heard, particularly the teachings making sense of what I experienced when I was 14, I wasn't ready for Buddhism. I still had lots of partying to do. That's what I wanted. I used to go along to nightclubs a lot, and I used to go out a lot, socializing and so on. And I still had some partying to do. So I left Buddhism alone, but it was friends who brought me back. Ratnaguna, who was my first teacher, and Suvajra, who was also my first teacher, contacted me and say, "Hey, Mark, where are you? Do you want to meet up?" And they gradually pulled me back in. So I finished my PhD in Manchester, and then I went to live in Norwich, a city in the southeast of England. And I started to engage with the Norwich Buddhist Centre, where I met my greatest friend, and he is called Sadaloka. Now, Sadaloka, we are very, very, very different people. but something connected us, and that something was the flame of the Dharma. I didn't like Sadhaloka as a person, but what I liked is he was so committed to the Dharma, and he was ablaze with the Dharma. He was ablaze with faith, and I responded to that. I wanted some of that. So I moved into a men's community, and me and Sadhaloka shared a room for 2 years, 3 years, until I had to move out. More of that later. What my friendship with Sadhaloka showed me was that loyalty and service are key in friendship. You need to be loyal and ready to serve your friend. You need to do things for them, keep an eye on them, help them with things that are needed. And that's what Sadhaloka did. I remember I was very, very short of money at the time, and I had a bed sheet and it was ripped, but I kept sleeping on it. And Sadhaloka went out and bought me a sheet. Things like that. He got me up every morning to meditate. Oh no, I'm too tired. No, he got me up. He threw the duvet off me and pulled me out of bed if necessary. He was great. And Sadhaloka remained a faithful friend to me, and he still is. He's a really faithful friend. And he showed me how to be a friend to somebody, particularly loyalty and service. And I also understood that I would really benefit from friendship. So I sought out senior order members, not because I wanted to get ordained or anything like that. It was because I thought senior order members had something to tell me, had something to pass on to me, you know, their experience and understanding of the Dharma. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to receive the living Dharma from other people who had been Dharma practitioners for years. So I put a lot of effort into friendship. I used to cycle from work for miles and go and see people, and then cycle back and make up the time, work late at night to make up the time I'd been to see people. And in fact, one kind of friendship was with Subhuti, who's a senior member of the order. And I was on a retreat doing communication exercises, and he leant across to me and he said, "Mark, have you asked for ordination?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Why?" He said, "Well, because I've got a young son and there's no point. I've got to give him a time there." And he said, "Don't worry about that. Just ask for ordination. I can see that you have a flame in you. Ask for ordination and see where it goes." And I did. And again, I think without that, somebody else having that confidence in me, somebody else seeing something in me which I wasn't seeing myself, really helped. And I did ask for ordination in the end. I also put a lot of time and effort into peer friendships. I set up a Going for Refuge group, and it was fantastic. We loved each other, and we had really great debates about the Dharma. We swam naked in the sea. We camped together. We went for long walks together, debating and arguing sometimes. It was great. And again, I thought, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. This is what the Buddha is talking about. I felt complete. So I was living in a men's community, and then I got a call from a girlfriend who I just split up with, and she said that she was pregnant. And I didn't know what to do. But what I relied on was my friends, particularly Suvajra, who's an experienced order member. And he just reminded me of the Buddha's teaching of rebirth. there was a possibility of an abortion, and I thought, no, that doesn't feel right. I just wanted to make sure that Joss, who was the ex-girlfriend and now the mother of my son, that she understood. She really thought it through herself, and also myself. And so just said, yeah, if an abortion goes ahead, then you may be snuffing out a life through rebirth. And I thought, yeah, I cannot get behind an abortion. So despite me and the Joss having split up, I said, I will support you. I will support you. Please don't have an abortion. I will support you. And so I changed plans. I moved out of the community, and I went to live with Joss to help bring up my son. And I also stayed in a job as well to earn some money. And friends were absolutely crucial in supporting me and Joss, actually. Friends who could give perspective, friends who would give support, friends who would go shopping for us. Because it was quite a stormy relationship as well. It never, it didn't really work in the end. So eventually the relationship did break down with Joss, and I moved out after 5 years or so. And I spent time living in various communities in Norwich. And I continued to commit a lot of my time and energy to friendship. I put a lot of effort into friendship, not only receiving friendship, but also giving. And eventually, I moved back up to Manchester, again, because of friendship. What happened was a couple of my friends, Moksha Priya and Priyavardhita, persuaded me to move up to Manchester and take on it was called the director of the Manchester Buddhist Centre. And they chipped away at me year after year saying, come on, Mahasraddha, because I was ordained then, come on, Mahasraddha, come up to Manchester. But you see, I was in a job at the time which I loved. I worked in scientific research and I loved it. I loved being at the cutting edge of knowledge in my field. I loved the energy of the scientific community, which was international. And I had my own research group and things were going really, really well. But I knew that I couldn't practice Buddhism and have such a big job, which I willingly gave a lot of time to. So eventually, I did move up to Manchester. I left science, which was really, really painful, because I left science because of friendship. Without the friendship of Moksha Priya and Priyavardhita, I wouldn't have been able to leave science. It was too powerful for me. So the passing on of the flame of the Dharma and inspiration from Moksha Priya and Priyavardhita to me, I ended up in Manchester, and I lived in a community in Manchester for many years and developed many friends, including Gunaketu. And Gunaketu, we bonded instantly, I think. And what I responded to in Gunaketu was energy. And the energy, I responded to Gunaketu's energy. Gunaketu passes on the flame of the Dharma through energy. So I got involved, heavily involved in the Manchester Buddhist Centre. I started teaching introductory Buddhism classes, and I started teaching what we call Buddhism 2 classes for people who had completed the introductory classes. And I started to befriend people. a lot of people actually. And I set up a study group for people who I thought were begin to catch the flame of the Dharma. And I had a study group of 32 people. and it was, again, it was very, very good. And yeah, I formed very, very, very strong friendships with people. I became a Mitra convener, and in the end, I became a private preceptor. And many of the friendships which I've forged in Buddhism 1 and Buddhism 2 have resulted in people getting ordained. And I think friendship is so, so important, because people, we need other people to take an interest in us. And it's magic what happens sometimes. If you say to a person, yes, I can see you have a flame in you, a magic can happen. The person will start taking themselves seriously, and that is magic. Most recently, I was at Padmaloka, and the men's retreat centre in Norwich in the UK, and I was sitting between two men who I was about to ordain, and it was just wonderful recollecting the years and the hours and hours and hours of friendship which had resulted in these two being ready for ordination. It was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I've got some minutes left, and I just wanted to, yes, just say, and I'll say it again, that spiritual friendship has been an absolutely central part in my spiritual life. I've really, 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 really enjoyed it. There's nothing more rewarding than watching people grow and develop. You know, you can use the analogy of a flower. You plant a seed, the seed germinates, and a little flower comes up, and it's like, and the flower, the seed is responding to the energy and warmth of the sun. It grows towards the sun, and then suddenly this beautiful flower erupts, and you look at it and go, wow, isn't that beautiful? And I think spiritual friendship is a bit like we're encouraging the flower to blossom in each of us, this beautiful flower, the beauty of the spiritual life. So what have I learned from engaging in spiritual friendship? First of all, you cannot pass on the flame of the Dharma without communication. More often than not, verbal communication. And verbal communication is a skill that I've had to learn. I've had to learn how to communicate skillfully communicate. Skillful communication needs to take into account the person before me and the circumstances in which they're in. If my communication is blunt and inappropriate, people will not listen, and the flame will not be passed on. In the Abhaya Sutta, the Buddha describes 3 key functions of skillful speech. Firstly, whether or not a statement is true. Secondly, whether or not a statement is beneficial. Thirdly, whether or not a statement is pleasing to others. So words that are skillfully spoken are factual, true, beneficial, and agreeable to others. And the Buddha goes on, these words are given at the appropriate time. So true, beneficial, and pleasing, and given at the proper time. Now you may ask, okay, so what about critical feedback? Because that's not always agreeable. I would say it's important it's given at the right time. So one thing I've learned in skillful communication, what's going on, Gunacator and Anna, huh? I'll say it again, it's given at the right time. Okay, so another thing I've learned in skillful communication is that skillful communication requires mindfulness. It requires mindfulness of what is true, and it requires mindfulness of the other person in front of me. It also requires mindfulness of one's motives. Why do I want to say what I want to say? Is it based upon ethics, or is it based upon what I want that person to do or to be for my own selfish ends? And mindfulness of the other person might involve being aware of their personality type. Now, here's a confession on my part. I've been quite intolerant of personality types which are not similar to mine. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it there. I've just been intolerant sometimes. So I have a friend who's deeply, deeply introverted. And if you sit down with him and say, tell me about yourself, he cannot. He reacts. He feels cornered. He feels aggressive. Yeah. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to sitting down with people and saying, tell me what you think. And they do, like Gunacator does. This friend asked me to be his private preceptor. So I've had to learn how to communicate with him. So how I thought, oh yeah, this man is a deep introvert. So how am I going to communicate with him? Well, he's a poet. So I said to him, send me your poetry. He sent me his poetry. Ah, I understand you. I went round to his house and I said, show me your shrine. He showed me his shrine and he started talking about it. This is why Amoghasiddha is there, and so on. And I thought, I'm getting to know this person. So I've had to learn skillful, mindful ways of getting to know people, which takes into account their personality types. I've learned that communication, especially verbal communication, is very, very powerful. Words are invisible. They're weightless, mere vibrations of molecules in the air. But they have the power to destroy somebody, to devastate somebody. And they have the power to change somebody's life forever. They have the power to uplift a person for hours, for days, for weeks, even for the rest of their lives. Often people will say, oh, Mahasraddha, you said this to me 5 years ago. And it had an enormous impact on me. So I think it's just, I have to be aware of what I say and the power it can have, the impact it can have upon people. I've also learned that friendship and communication in friendship, real, full, authentic communication requires courage, as it's required me to be vulnerable, to face feelings of lack of self-worth in myself, to face the fear of rejection, and yeah, communication has, or friendship in communication has exposed conditionings from my past, So I was brought up in a violent, I was physically abused, not sexually, but punches and kicks and so on. And my conditioning was to keep quiet, never say anything, because if you did, I might get beaten for whatever reason. So I have learned, I've had to undo that conditioning and learn how to communicate with people and say what I think and feel. So communication has undone some very, very painful and powerful conditioning. So I've also learned that engaging in communication is an insight practice. Why? Because in order to communicate fully with another, I must loosen the tightness in myself and open up to the possibility and potentiality that communication can give. So a loosening up in myself has required a spiritual death, letting go of, for example, my past conditioning, letting go of a fear of rejection, letting go of what I want. Letting go of a fear of vulnerability. And just being able to sit with being vulnerable. And that has been a spiritual death for me. And the spiritual rebirth has been the friendship which has opened up on the basis of the spiritual death. The spiritual rebirth has allowed me to engage with people in ways which I think are amazing. You know, that intimate, deep connection with another human being is amazing. And when you get ordained, you get given a sadhana practice, as I think you know. And for me, the sadhana practice, the visualization I do too, I do Shakyamuni Buddha and Prajnaparamita. They have an element of Kalyana Mitra in them. My sadhana is a Kalyana Mitra to me. Because they encourage both spiritual death and spiritual rebirth. In order for me to open up to my sadhana, to open up to the transcendental, I need to relax and let go of my limited self and let in and be receptive to what the sadhana is communicating to me. And it's interesting, sadhana has become a key practice for me. That's what I do most days. That's what I will prioritize over all the other practices that I do. And I think it's no coincidence because my sadhana involves Kalyana Mitrata. It involves connecting with the Buddha on the basis of him being my ultimate friend. And the communication can be explosive at times. Sometimes the Buddha can be, if you like, supporting and comforting. Sometimes the Buddha can just throw this fireball at me and say, come on, Mahasraddha, it's not good enough. And it's great. That's what happens in human friendship. It's wonderful. So I just want to conclude now. So by saying that passing on and lighting a flame of others is the most rewarding thing that I can do with my life. Being part of the flow of Kalyana Mitra in a Sangha is the most rewarding thing that I found I can do with my life. To see somebody grow and develop is incredibly moving And I feel incredibly privileged to be part of that in the lives which I'm involved in. And, you know, I've been very privileged to have ordained 5 men, and there's more as well. And seeing each of those men over many years, sometimes 12 years, grow and develop to the point where they can receive ordination. It's wonderful. It's wonderful witnessing that. And yeah, I put hours every week into Kalyana Mitzvah, not minutes, hours, because I think it's just so important. I think Kalyana Mitzvah is so important. I love coming into communication with other people on the basis of passing on the flame of the Dharma. And I think the future of the Oslo Sangha will depend upon the extent to which Kalyana Mitzvah flows between you. Kalyana Mitzvah will determine how strong your Sangha is. And I mean Kalyana Mitzvah in terms of both giving to each other and receiving from each other. Right, that's 40 minutes. And of course, in order to be able to give Kalyana Mitzvah to others, we have to practice so that we have something to give. So Kalyana Mitzvah is win-win. Not only do we win, other people win as well. So it's like Kalyana Mitzvah is win-win for us and for others. So I look forward to witnessing Kalyana Mitzvah flowing ever more strongly in the Oslo Sangha. And I look forward to all of you joining the order. And we can share the order together one day, hopefully. And that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much, Mahasraddha. That's, well, it's a very inspiring talk and account of an inspiring life in the sign of Kalyana Mitrata. So I just wondered if there are any points of questions of clarification before we take a break, and then we will split into 2 groups. But just to see if there are any brief questions. No? Okay.
Hans?
Hans? Yeah. Well, okay, at least I can't hear him.
No, I can't hear Hans. Could you try again?
Seems like the microphone's not working, Hans.
Yeah. Okay, Hans. We can't hear you, Hans.
Could you take off the headset, maybe?
I can hear you now, I think.
Okay, so I just wondered if we could have a 5 minutes break before or after we join the breakout rooms. So just to go to
Yeah. So that's what we're gonna do now. It's 19 past. So if we take 15 minutes, is that okay? And then you can, bring your coffee or tea or whatever cup to the breakout rooms, and we will, we'll assign the groups when you come back in. So you could just stay tuned. Yeah.
So what time do you want us back, Gunnar,
At 25 to, so 11:35.
Okay.
10:35. Uh-huh.
Du gjør fortsatt opptak, Gunnar Ketu.
Ja, det ikke noe, det ikke spiller, det ikke noe vits i.